Okay, zero product property. Anybody remember what that is?
Nope.
Okay, if you don't. I had one student so far remember it in my classes, because you would have seen it in Algebra 1. So that's okay if you don't. It's if A times B equals 0, what must be the case about A and B? Then A equals 0 or B equals 0. So A or B then could be 0 because we get an answer of 0. Does that make sense? So we're going to use that today. We're also going to use the standard form of a quadratic. Quadratic, you know what that is? Oh, okay. I thought you were.
I have no questions. Is this going to be on the quiz this Tuesday?
Yes, this is so the stuff that we're doing today is going to be on the quiz.
One last question. How many
Stuff we're doing today and Monday.
How many points the quiz board?
It's always like
Let's worry about it on Monday, okay?
I'm just
So
what are we doing on Monday?
it's going to be very small. It's a very small quiz.
I like that a lot.
So standard form of a quadratic is ax squared plus bx plus c is 0 equals 0, and a is positive. So what do we notice about the order of the exponents here? So we have a 2 and then a 1 and then no variable here. What's the order of those exponents? Yes, that's right. They're greatest to least. So descending order. So we have a 2, a 1, and then no exponent or 0, which would be there. So it has to be in descending order with the a being positive. Okay, so we're going to solve by factoring today. Is this in standard form, number 2? Equal to 0, right? Is it in descending order? No. It's in descending order. It's got x squared, and then it's 12x, and then the number. So it's in standard form. And that x squared is positive. So what we want to do is we want to solve by factoring. So how would we factor that? How do we factor this? It's the x, that's right. So the reason we know we need to do that with the x is it's a so it is a polynomial, and it is a degree of 2, and x squared, x term, and a number. So that's why we're going to use the x. So what number do we put on the top? 32, and on the bottom, negative 12. And so what multiplies to 32 that adds to negative 12? Thank you for raising your hand and not saying it aloud, because I want people to think about it. Thank you. Yes, Will?
Negative 8, negative 4.
Good. And that's it. Those are the only two numbers that work there. So our factors are x minus 8 times x minus 4, and now it's equal to 0. So I forgot to mention, what's different about this number 2 here than all the ones we did on our warm-up?
Equals 0.
Equals 0. So on your quiz, that's what we're going to have. All of them are going to be equal to 0. So we need to use our zero product property now. So the zero product property, Sophia, the assignment is over there.
The homework.
So the zero product property, these two are multiplied by each other, so we can set each one equal to 0. We're going to set x minus 8 equal to 0 and x minus 4 equals 0. So now we just have two things to solve. Pretty simple, huh?
Yeah.
That part, anyway. Yep. So my answer is 8 or 4. I'm getting a lot of students that are wanting to write their answer like this. Why do we not want to write the answer like that?
That's 2.1.
That's for a point. This is not a point, this answer. This is two separate numbers. If we took 8 and substituted it back into our equation, what would we get? 0. That's right. What would we get if we substituted 4 back into our equation? 0. So both of those will give us 0 when we substitute it in. Number 3, is that in standard form? It's equal to 0. Descending order to exponent of 2, exponent 1, and then no exponent. So now we're going to factor. How do we factor this? And so what do we put up on the top?
50.
How'd you get that, Will? How'd you get 50?
3 times 25.
Good. So he remembered that since there is a coefficient in front of the n squared, that 2, he's going to multiply it by the 25 to get 50. So what multiplies to 50 that adds to 15? 5 and 10. So we have n plus 5 times n plus 10. One more step before we use the zero product property. Really easy to forget this step. What's our next step? Good. We want to divide by 2. So this 2 slides to the front, 2n plus 5. And then 10 divided by 2 is 5. And now we can use our zero product property.
Yeah.
2n plus 5 is 0. And n plus 5 equals 0. And then we get answers of -5/2 and -5. Do you remember seeing this at all in Algebra 1?
Yeah. I'm wondering your thoughts.
Okay, if you don't remember. While we're going over it. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next slide. So how would we factor number 4? Is that in standard form? It is in standard form. It's equal to 0. It's in order. It's in descending order. Can we factor that? We're not going to use an x, are we? Because there aren't 3 terms. How would we factor this one? We can factor a k out of each one. So what would we get when we factor out the k? Will and Derek know. Somebody here in this group. What do we get when we factor the k out? 2k plus or minus? Good. So we just factored out the k, and so now we can use the zero product property. We don't have a parentheses here, but it's still multiplication. So we're going to set k equal to 0 and 2k minus 7 equal to 0. We're done with the k equals 0, right? Nothing to solve. You already have the solution, and then we just need to solve this one. So we get k equals 0 or 7/2. Now I want you to do the U try number 5 on your own. What'd you put? Okay, yeah. Okay, so you should have gotten 7 and 3 there. 2 more problems. Number 6, is that in standard form? It's not in standard form, is it? How do we get it into standard form?
You had 11I to both sides.
Good.
You have 0 on the first side.
So when we add the 11n over here and we rewrite this, where does the 11n go?
It goes behind the 30.
That it goes in front of the 30 and after the n squared because we want it in standard form. Does that make sense? Descending order?
Yes.
Okay. So now what would we do?
Now you just do the X method.
That's right. We want to use our x to factor it. What multiplies to 30? That adds to 11.
Oh, good one.
65.
10 plus 6. 10 plus 5. And then we're going to use, what are we going to do next?
Flip it around.
You gotta like flip it and then minus 6 and minus 5.
So before we do that, what do we?
Well, I don't know what it's called, but I
Okay.
know like you just do like n plus 6 equals 0.
Good.
And then, yeah.
What's this called here? What's this called getting from this step to this step? Yeah, zero product property.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Do we have to show that on the test? Like, if we were to do that, would we have to show like that?
No.
part?
Or can
Do
we just
we
do
just go,
like
do we go straight to just?
I don't recommend that you just go straight to do that because I have students that make mistakes a lot. That's my answer to it. So n equals -6 and -5. Okay, and number 7. Pay attention to this one because it's one that students do something wrong on it a lot. So what would we do to get this one in standard form?
Yeah, let's subtract 9a and subtract 18.
Good. Why subtract 9a and
2a squared. Yeah, you don't want a negative 2a squared. So small.
so we don't want this 2a squared to be negative. It has to be positive. When we factor, that a has to be positive. So that's why we like that. So now when we write it, we're going to put the 2a squared first, and what next? Minus 9a minus 18 equals 0. So now we're going to factor using the x, what goes on the top and what goes on the bottom. What goes on the top?
Oh, I got that one.
Negative 36.
-36. I know we've done. The last one didn't have a coefficient. This one has a coefficient of 2. So we got to take the -18 times 2.
Almost not close.
So what numbers multiply to -36 that add up to -9?
It's just going to be -12 and 3.
Oh my God.
So a minus 12, a plus 3. What next?
When you do that,
Read it, please. What do you do next here?
put
Yes.
Divide by 2.
Yes. Divide by 2. Really easy to forget to divide by 2. Thank you, Dexter. So a minus 6, and then we slide the 2 to the front, 2a plus 3, and then we use the zero product property.
Yeah.
A minus 6 is 0, 2a plus 3 is 0. And so our answers would be -3/2 and 6.